answer is nothing.
Right. That answer is better because what happened before that? Nothing. Also. So the picture that I developed, it's a mathematical description. It's not that you just say that it came out of nothing, because people laughed at me even when I had mathematical description at the beginning. But it's a mathematical model which describes a tiny closed universe which pops out of literally nothing. There was no matter, no space, and no time before. You said that it's time with a, how did you say it? That it was...
time before time.
Time before time. Actually, I discovered that St. Augustine came up with a very similar idea. He was perplexed with the question of what God was doing before he created heaven and earth. And if he was doing nothing, then why did he not continue to do nothing forever? And he concluded that time was created with the universe, that before there was universe, it's meaningless to talk about time. And so the question of what God was doing before has no meaning.
In your work, Alex Vilenkin, you look back before the creation, before the concept of time, and you do believe that something did exist, which was a law, like a mathematical equation that gave birth. There was no time, space, or matter, but there was a law.
Yeah, this is the most perplexing question of all, that this mathematical model that describes creation of the universe out of nothing, it is based on the same equations of physics that describe the following evolution of the universe. So this seems to suggest that these equations were there even when the universe was not, and it's not clear in what form they were there. Basically, you might think that equations of physics suggest descriptions of the universe, but it's strange to think the description existed before the universe itself.
Which some people might use as an explanation for God, or a proof of God, an equation floating around out there, out in nowhere. Is God an equation?
Yes, when I came up with this idea of creation of the universe from nothing, I thought that theologians would love it. But in fact, many of them hated it, basically because it gives a natural explanation to the origin of the universe.
Well, they haven't read their Augustine, have they? Or they would be more comfortable.
Well, some of them did, and actually when I went to some meetings with theologians who were very sophisticated theologians, and I discovered to my surprise that practically every question that I was struggling with, they were struggling with too, only in a somewhat different formulation. And Augustine is a good example. This is the question of what caused the universe to form. If there was nothing before, then how the universe could be caused, and so forth. And they ask the same questions about God.
Your equation, which explains, for lack of a better term, the birth of the universe, the universes, is it a simple, beautiful equation, or is it a big, fat, massive, complex one?
It is very simple.
Can you tell me what it is?
Well, it is, basically it is a geometric shape, and it consists of two parts. Part of it describes this process which is called tunneling. Quantum tunneling, it's in quantum mechanics, particles and other objects can penetrate through barriers, something that cannot do in classical physics. And so in classical physics, the universe could not appear from nothing. But in quantum mechanics, it's possible. And part of this geometric shape is just a sphere. It's a four-dimensional sphere, and it describes the process of tunneling. A sphere is characterized by just one number. This is a radius. And there is another part of this image which describes the subsequent evolution of this universe. Basically, the big circle of the sphere, kind of the largest section of the sphere, this is the universe when it is born. And the pole of the sphere is the point from which it starts.
And you argue that there was no need for any cause for this to happen. In a universe based on quantum theory, cause is not necessary.
That's right. Quantum theory is a probabilistic theory, and if you take, for example, a radioactive atom, it will decay. You know for sure it will decay, but you cannot tell when. right? You can calculate its lifetime, which tells you that after a certain time it's likely to decay. But you can ask, what is the reason that it decayed this particular moment? There is no reason. It's just a probabilistic process which happens with some probability per unit time. And actually, radioactive decay is very similar to the creation of the universe. You don't really need a cause. There is a probability for this to happen, so it happens.
You mentioned that with radioactive decay, there's a probability that it will happen in a certain period of time. But if we go back to before time, there's no period of time in which it could happen.
That's true. There is this formalism, mathematics, and the words that I'm saying are not necessarily give an adequate description of the math. But basically, you cannot ask, of course, you cannot sit there in nothing with no time and watch for universes to pop out. However, the universe could, this newly born universe can have different shape. It can be filled with different types of matter. And you can ask, what is the probability for the universe to pop out with this or that kind of initial state? So basically, you don't calculate the probability per time, but you calculate the probability for the different initial conditions of the universe.
You're listening to Thoughtcast. I'm Jenny Attia, and I'm speaking with the cosmologist Alex Vilenkin. He's written a new book called Many Worlds in One, The Search for Other Universes. Alex, let's back up a moment. You were born in the former Soviet Union, where you studied physics as an undergraduate, but you were not able to get a graduate degree in the Soviet Union. Why not?
I applied to graduate school, and actually my professors encouraged me to apply to graduate school. Initially, it looked like I had too many offers, so I was worried that I would accept one and run into awkward situation. But things turned out to be much simpler. There was actually some file for me in the KGB, which I'm not sure exactly what it is. They don't send you a letter saying that you are blacklisted. But I couldn't get into graduate school, and I couldn't even get any decent job.
They liked you, these universities, and they wanted you, but then suddenly the KGB comes knocking and says, oh, scratch him off the list?
This is actually what happened, because I already passed the exams. There you pass exams for graduate school. And I was told that I am admitted, and it was in an institute where one needed to have a pass to go in. And you have to apply and wait when you get this pass. And I waited and waited and waited for several months. And then they told me that they eliminated that position in graduate school.
What do you think you did, Alex, to irritate the KGB?
I probably have to disappoint you. I wasn't a dissident and a freedom fighter or anything like that. It could be that I made a joke in their own company, and it could be anything. They don't tell you what it is.
Your ideas about physics and cosmology are quite cutting edge. Do you think it's possible that you were pushing boundaries that were uncomfortable for the Soviets?
At that time, the top of my career was a job of a night watchman in a zoo. Since I couldn't get into graduate school, I went to the army, and then I had some odd jobs. So no dangerous ideas, no creation of universes. It all happened already in the US.
Now, Einstein, if I may say, had a somewhat similar problem. He was working as a patent clerk, as we all know, in Bern, Switzerland in 1905, when he had his first brilliant breakthrough. You are a night watchman at a zoo, not exactly what you were trained for. Did that give you the chance to think about physics in a different way?
Sure. I surely thought about physics. It wasn't easy because my colleagues were basically in Russia, drinking is a big thing. So if you refuse to drink with someone, it's taken as an offense. So I had to keep their company.
Some watchmen.
Well, sure, yeah, it's a huge zoo. And there was a rifle which I had no idea how to shoot, and it was no way I could stop anybody from stealing anything. So basically I was sitting there and hoping for the best.
Were you angry, or were you somewhat accepting of the dynamic?
You know, I can tell you that I was very happy when I got out of there. And
how did you get out? How did you come here? They were happy to see you go?
They were not particularly happy. I applied for immigration, this was the Jewish immigration, so it was a period when very many people left. And I applied, they held me there for almost a year. My wife's parents lost their jobs, so it wasn't